Obviously, it destroys Carlos Sainz's car, and they go, oh, the manhole cover's gone off, and it's completely destroyed his floor. I know what we'll do. We'll give him a 10-place grid penalty for fixing his car.
Pure force majeure situation, completely innocent for Carlos and for Ferrari. And all the teams had to do was agree with that, and it would have just been forgotten and one of those things.
Ulterior motives.
Hello and welcome back to the On Track GP podcast with me, Joe, and today Abby and Richard. Lovely to see you both. What a race! My God, I loved that Vegas race. Abby, score it out of 10.
I'd give it an 8.
Okay.
I know you really love it, and it was great.
I loved it.
I just think there was a lot of showmanship.
Yeah.
It was very Vegas, and I get that's the point, but less about the racing. I felt like, especially in the build-up, more about the aesthetic.
About everything that had gone on as well leading up. I'd give it a 9.
I'd give it a 9 too, Richard.
I think if we had a bit of rain, it could have been a 10. But I'd say a 9. I really enjoyed it. I was really happy I woke up for that.
Yeah, well, it was early. That was the other thing. Well, look, let's go back to what was Thursday, or was it Friday for us? Thursday night for them, Friday morning for us, when I was fuming when it sort of happened as I woke up. Right, the dude drives over a manhole cover, and they think it was the downforce of the car is so strong that it basically ripped up the top of this thing, a big hole in the ground, and completely destroys his chassis. Richard, what the hell was going on there?
It's exactly what you said. It's just the pressure from the vacuum underneath the cars, and with Formula One cars and any high level racing car, probably 70-80% of the downforce is generated underneath. And that's why when you see in the rain, you get these huge, what we call rooster tails coming off the back. That's the air escaping. And it's just the pressure. And it literally pulls the covers up. And it's not something which just happens on street circuits. We remember Roman Grosjean in Malaysia a few years ago. He managed to rip one up and had the same effect. And it sucks and everything, but the reality is...
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Nice.
3-1 for you there. Sorry, carry on.
The only way to be able to test it, because a Formula One car is generating probably 4 tons of downforce. The only way to test it is to run over it with a Formula One car.
Yeah.
And because there's no contraption on the world. You don't have a vacuum cleaner, a Dyson, which can simulate that level of force. So it's just one of those things, and it's very common with new street circuits. It happens. Baku had it before. And it's just one of those things. And okay, what happened with it? It sucks and everything. But you can't say that Las Vegas or Formula One did a bad job with that part of it. Now, with the rest of it, that's
fallout.
a different story.
So 2 things happen after that. Number 1 is that obviously it destroys Carlos Sainz's car, and they go, oh, the manhole cover's gone off, and it's completely destroyed his floor. I know what we'll do. We'll give him a 10-place grid penalty for fixing his car. That seems fair. What?
Yeah, completely out of order when I saw that. I mean, it is not the fault of Carlos Sainz or Ferrari that...
For once. Thank God.
For once, what's happened with this manhole cover. In my opinion, I mean, surely they know the amount of downforce or some idea on the circuit. So if there's a manhole cover, is there not something that you can do to protect that from making sure it doesn't damage your car?
They weld them normally, right?
They do. They normally weld them, but it's just one of those things. Obviously, you don't use the same weld in each part of the world, and there's different types of tarmac. There's so many variables. There's different types of materials for the manhole cover. You just don't really know, and it is kind of one of those things where unless they get a mandated system where they have the FAA's mandated manhole cover materials and tarmac and everything, but that would just be...
Maybe they should have to do that if they're having a street circuit, because that was really damaging to Carlos Sainz.
And dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. And also, he had a brilliant qualifying, and then that just kind of impacted him for that whole entire weekend, and it wasn't his fault. And I think it was a really harsh punishment for... I get it that, if they've got to replace certain things, that you're going to have a penalty, especially this late on in the season, but at the same time, it wasn't his fault, and why should that impact Carlos Sainz's weekend and Ferrari's weekend?
But there is a provision in the regulations that states if all of the teams agree, then the penalty doesn't have to happen. So,
and which team didn't
agree?
Want to revoke the penalty? Let's have a think. Was it Toto Wolff and Mercedes by any chance?
And if you ever wanted to know why Formula One teams are bickering about these great potential teams coming in, like General Motors and Andretti and everything. This is a prime example of that. A pure force majeure situation, completely innocent for Carlos and for Ferrari. And all the teams had to do was agree with that, and it would have just been forgotten and one of those things.
Ulterior motives. Yeah. But again, imagine if that happened to Lewis or George Russell, and then imagine the fuss Toto Wolff would have kicked up about that penalty. So I know that, and also, Ferrari can now catch Mercedes. And
I think it's 4 points now.
Yeah, and I hope they do. I really hope they do, because of decisions like that went against Ferrari. I'm glad that they managed to have a half decent weekend in the end.
Well, we'll get into the race in a second, but the second thing that happened is that I think the Las Vegas Grand Prix mucked up big time here so they had to delay FP2 because they had to fix this thing. They can't have the cars going over some sort of like apocalyptic hole in the road, the pit to hell. So they had to fix that. But they kept saying, we're going to run it. Oh, actually, we're going to run it at I think ended up being 2 a.m., but everybody needs to leave. All fans need to leave by 1:30 a.m. So they kick everybody out. People have seen 9 minutes of racing, and they offer them a $200 gift card. A Charles Lecler hoodie costs $350 from the Las Vegas F1 shop.
Mental.
That is disgraceful.
I think there was an ulterior motive going on there. I think that the problem is, and if you look at F1's statement, is... let's be perfectly honest, in America, they're not really shy of lawsuits. And if F1 had come out and given a refund and said, we're so sorry, which they should have done, they would have then left themselves completely open and liable. In the end, they've been sued anyway.
Well, this is it.
Now they can actually try and defend themselves as much as they can. But had they admitted fault and done that, then everybody would have taken them to town, basically.
Interesting.
So I think there was a political element there to try and protect themselves from the inevitable lawsuit.
Well, you just mentioned it. The lawsuit has come through from Dimopoulos Law Firm, and they've launched a class action lawsuit against Liberty Media and the event organisers for the 35,000 fans that were affected by this, which is... pretty dramatic. I mean, I don't remember anything like this. It's so American.
So American.
Better Call Saul. It's very those vibes. But we'll keep an eye on that. But let's get to the race. Let's put Thursday, which was just absolute monstrosity. It couldn't have gone worse. And everyone's going, if this race isn't good, then Vegas are stuffed. People are going to hate on this place for the next 10 years because they've messed it up so much. But we get to qualifying. We have a Ferrari 1-2 lockout. Carlos Sainz ends up 12th because of the penalty.
It was an exciting qualifying as well. Great quality. Everyone was so close, So it wasn't just like, Ferrari were just really good. It was it kept you glued to the screens. You never knew who was going to go out of each session.
So we get to the race. We get to corner number 1. Max Verstappen starting on the front row alongside. And again, we've got a little bit of Vegas controversy as Max Verstappen absolutely throws it up the inside of turn 1 deliberately, and I don't think anyone can say this, deliberately sending Charles Leclerc very, very, very wide and taking track position. He's then eventually given a 5-second penalty, but it doesn't really affect too much because he's got the track position, which is more powerful than the 5 seconds. Yeah. Abby, you're a big Max Verstappen fan. I'm a big Charles Leclerc fan. What's your view on this?
I have to say, I thought it was quite harsh. I didn't think he really massively pushed
The penalty
him
was harsh.
No, I don't think, in terms of, I think the penalty was harsh. I don't think he pushed him off.
What?
I just don't think he did. And I think even the commentary kind of said, they felt like they had to punish him because it wasn't like he'd done things maybe completely correctly, but I felt like if they were really going to punish him, a 5-second penalty to Red Bull and Max, it's really not that much. I mean, he's usually got a 10+ gap, in races and things like that. But they obviously wanted to make an example. I don't think it was that bad.
So do you think what Max did was a legal move?
No, I think I think it was a little battle between two, and who comes out stronger?
No, it was completely illegal. Richard, you're a professional driver. Tell me, that's an illegal move by Max Verstappen, isn't it?
If I was looking at that incident as a steward, the first thing I would have thought was, if Charles wasn't there and there was a wall there, would Max have made the corner? And the reality is he wouldn't have made the corner. And therefore, he put Charles in a position where Charles had no choice but to go off the track.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think the penalty was justified. And again, I think they were probably a bit confused what to do. And I think in hindsight, they should have reversed the positions. But 100% it was
IndyCar it. Just flip the positions.
It was a bit odd that they didn't flip the positions.
Just make that.
There was a lot of talk on the radio about doing that, and then they obviously went with the penalty, which, as I said, giving a 5-second penalty to Red Bull is really not going to affect them that much.
Especially as third place at that time was quite a long way back. It wouldn't have actually been like they would have potentially dropped a few more places.
Mm-hmm. And they were, and they were like, I think the track position in that scenario is much more powerful. Yeah. You'd rather have track position and a 5-second penalty. So I understand why Max has done it, because really Ferrari were quick, and he knew he had to do something.
He had to do it.
So if you look at it from that point of view, like, I understand why, but Max is the sort of driver, kind of like Schumacher, that will find anything in the rules and go, right, if I can get myself ahead and take a 5-second penalty, well, great.
You've got a car that's good enough to respond to a 5-second penalty.
So I do understand it, but
do you know what I liked about it though, was I think it was the first time for a long time that Max has felt a bit threatened. And that, you know, there were people who could actually compete with him on a level playing field, which he's been so dominant this year, he hasn't had. That was the first shade I've seen of his driving that we saw in 2021. Yeah. You know, that sort of aggression.
Dark arts.
Yeah.
Dark arts F1.
And everybody's thinking, oh, maybe he's matured and stuff like that and calmed down. It's made me think if everybody can catch up to Red Bull next year, we might be seeing a bit more of the feisty old Max that made it Formula One so entertaining in 21.
I'd love to see that. We had... Behind what was happening at that turn one, we also had a sort of complete chaotic incident of Alonso and Sainz spinning, Bottas, Perez and Hamilton all got caught up in it as well. I mean, it was a carnage first 15 seconds.
Yeah, it was. I feel like for the first like half an hour, I'd seen like 6 laps or something like that. It was just all mental, you know, the Alonso spinning, and then I don't know who it was. Was it Bottas that just kept kind of driving into him?
They were like playing
just
like cars.
Yeah, it was when you can't turn around in America or the F1 game. It was actually quite amusing, but also, you know, Lando going out so early on, smashing it into the wall, and, you know, luckily he is okay. But again, that was really disappointing for me, because as much as I'm a Red Bull fan, I really like McLaren, and we're all really kind of open in here about how we love Lando and Oscar, and really rooting for them. And it was a shame, because I was expecting them to have a really good weekend too, and it was just all very chaotic. And I think that also comes with being on a new circuit. You know, they were all kind of at a level playing field this weekend. None of them had really. Obviously, you'd had practice and stuff and simulation, but it's not the same as actually driving physically on the track. And I felt that it could have been an interesting weekend in terms of, you know, that battle at the top. But I expected to see McLaren kind of up there, and it was a real shame what kind of happened. But Lance Stroll P5, mental.
Oh God, yeah, I mean
absolutely mad.
That was absolutely nuts. Coming back to Lando and McLaren generally, I mean, not a good weekend. And I know that you've got some views on that Norris crash, right?
Yeah, it was. To be honest with you, it was something that I worried about when I watched the onboard from free practice 1, because if you actually, the one area you can tell when a Formula One car's hitting the ground is you get these sort of bright wood coloured marks on the tarmac, which is where they're scraping, and you could see they were scraping from free practice 1, which is when they're not pushing, they're running conservative with ride heights and everything. And on that sort of corner, where you've got a car bottoming out like that, it's very, very nerve-wracking. When you're in qualifying, you've got really high tire pressures, peak performance, massive grip for new tires, low fuel, you don't care about it, you just crack on. But in a racing situation, you know, basically you want to keep the car as low as possible to get as much downforce as possible. But of course, that's affected by the tyre pressures. And obviously with it being cold and these slow laps and slow starts, low energy through the tyres, etc., the tyres don't come up to pressure as quickly as normal, which means because the tyres don't have as much air in them, the car is running at a lower level. And Lando's, whether, you know, that means when the car bottoms out, it stays bottomed out for a longer amount of time, which means the downforce from the floor, which is about 80% of the total downforce, is completely cut. And that's why, you know, corners where you have bumps in the middle of it are really, really treacherous. So it's one of those things where if you're not on a corner where the car's bottoming out, you have normal grip. To be honest, at low pressures, you probably have more grip than if anything. But on those high-speed corners where you bottom out, it just snaps and there's nothing you can do. And I'm really happy to see Lando's okay, because I've hit concrete walls before and they absolutely suck.
Yeah, I bet.
Like it's not the pain, it's just the violence of it.
And
like,
I remember you talking about the G's, that you stop so quickly that it's your body is sort of thrown that other way.
Any impact with a concrete wall, when you actually watch it on TV, you look at it and you go, oh, that doesn't look too bad. If you watch it in slow motion, it's frightening. And as I said, fortunately, I've only hit one once and at slow speed, but God, it hurt.
Yeah. Well, he did go to the medical centre for a checkup after, and seems to be as though everything's fine. He left later that day, which is really, really good. Getting back to the race, Verstappen in the end, won it. But my God, we saw some good racing between three with so many different points in the race where we had a different race leader between Verstappen, Leclerc, and Perez. It was really nice to see some racing out there.
Yeah, it was, and I think that's something that maybe we've missed this season, you know, with Red Bull's dominance, and you know, maybe Checo again not getting out of Q2, but again, you know, does well to make his way up the pack, and it could have been a Red Bull 1-2, and again, second week running, Checo bottles it at the final lap. And I cannot quite believe it, because we've said it so many times. I mean, we're like a broken record on this channel about Checo. And I just think it was very amateur defending. This is an incredibly accomplished driver. And he's been disappointing. We've made no kind of feat about it this season. He has been very disappointing for us. But I think that when you're sitting there on the last lap, you have to bring it home. And it was just, look, as a racing driver, you'll know more than me. And yeah, just to do it 2 weeks in a row, I think that's pretty unacceptable.
You know, my dad used to, when I was karting, he used to record all of my races with a handheld camera so we could watch them back. And there was one race when I was 13 where I was really stupid and knew I'd made a mistake afterwards, and I didn't block in a very similar way to Perez on the last lap when I was leading, and 5 carts went by me. And gosh, I learned some new words when I watched that video back. You know, for a 13-year-old, that was some mature language, but I deserved it. And it was identical. That shouldn't be happening when you're 13 years old, let alone when you're in Formula One.
Talk me through what should Perez be doing in that situation?
Why on earth didn't he even move to the inside? You just park your car on the inside, and it's very similar to what Max did when he overtook Leclerc. Max overtook Leclerc on the inside and thought that Leclerc was giving him the room. Leclerc then tried to outbrake him on the outside, so Max just released a brake and put Leclerc in a position where he couldn't turn into the corner. He had to let Max go. Checo, just park your car on the inside, and then when Leclerc goes down, just release the brake so you're always a little bit ahead of him. And if he brakes too late, you know that he's braked too late, and he'll run straight on. The wall comes back out. He's going to be the one who hits the wall first. The fact he didn't even move to the inside, I have no idea what he was thinking. I mean, you just always know, rule number 1 in defending, inside.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing you learn when you're in racecraft, when you're like 9 years old. For him to have made that, honestly, that could be, if he doesn't get second in the championship, I think he might have.
He's confirmed.
And he's lucky because.
But that's not from him. I think that's just from Mercedes, because Mercedes and Ferrari. Yeah, they didn't capitalize on it. But I think that second place is very much not a myth, but I think it's. I think if it wasn't for the earlier races in the season,
I mean, that would have, honestly, for me, if he didn't come second, then this would have been the nail in the coffin, because that shows that the confidence is just completely and utterly deflated, because that was so poor.
But just to do it twice in the in the last 2 races,
both
you just
by
can't.
like a tenth. I think one of them was half a tenth and one of them was
Brazil
0.17.
was half a tenth. It's
absolutely
just crazy.
2 standout performances that you mentioned. One of Lance Stroll ending P5 from P19. I mean, what an underrated performance. We didn't really see any of it.
Surely he was driving.
He was just like, here I am, and I'm finished 5th, and now I'm going to the casino. Daddy, money. This is what a great performance. Fair play.
Yeah.
Just got on with his job. It was actually really professional. I don't think we heard him on the radio all race either.
It wasn't a particularly quick car this weekend, the Aston Martin. He just sort of did the business.
Also, another one was Esteban Ocon.
Correct. Finishing fourth from 16th.
Just really random.
Potentially a little bit of handbags with Gasly as well, because he ignored the team orders.
Oh, and Gasly plummeted at the end. I heard there was some sort of battery issue or something going on with him, but he why was the Alpine quick? It was like, that should not have been quick here. There's no reason why that car should have been good, but it was great.
Yeah, it was really a kind of a best of the rest this weekend, especially with kind of like McLaren out of the mix. It kind of allows you to see these other cars that have underperformed all season long in an Alpine, and Lance Stroll in particular. I mean, it looked good for them. Why not? Good for them.
I absolutely loved it. I honestly thought there was so much action throughout the race, even to the point where we see grumpy old Justin Bieber waving the flag.
He was dressed all in black. Had he come straight from a funeral or something? It was just like, lighten up, mate. It's the Las Vegas Grand Prix.
I know you've got quite a nice idea about checkered flags.
Yeah, because every time there's enough celebrities in Formula One now. We get that they want the celebrity factor, and you just need to watch the grid walks and stuff like that. And no one really cares about who waves the checkered flag. And when you see someone like Justin Bieber, who clearly doesn't want to be there, that just it takes the shine off of what the excitement for the Formula One is. And so what you want is people who are truly passionate. So why don't they I'm sure Formula One must work with a charity somewhere. I'm not sure who it is. But why don't they have a sweepstake where anybody who's bought a general admission or a grandstand ticket is allowed to enter a raffle for £5 or £10, and then your name or number will get drawn out of a hat, and you get to wave the checkered flag.
That'd be so good.
And all the money goes to the charity of Formula One's association.
So cool.
Good idea. You should pitch it.
And then you get, you'll get a really passionate fan waving it like a crazy man.
You'll get kids doing it, like with parents or whatever. I think it's lovely.
It's a really nice idea.
Instead of Justin Bieber, who just like...
Probably got paid like £1 million to just wave the flag for 10 seconds.
He does make good music, just putting it out there. I'll not have a word said against his boyfriend from 2009 or whatever. What a song.
Sorry, there's a good reason I've never listened to the radio with you guys.
I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I'd say there's a few odd songs.
I honestly thought that was. I mean, and Vegas. My God, did they need a good race after what happened on the Thursday?
Max Verstappen made it very clear he's not up for Vegas whatsoever.
No. But he came out at the end of the weekend. Went, can't wait to come back next year.
Come back next year. But in terms of, it was a very showman-based race, and I think that is just where we're going with Formula One, isn't it?
I've got a feeling, to be honest, that this race could end up replacing Miami.
Yeah, that is a little rumour.
Because I think that it's proven it's got good racing, which Miami never has. And it's a lot more relatable to people than Miami is. Mm-hmm. And, Vegas stands out on a map a lot more than Miami does. Yeah. And do you really need two exquisite showbiz races in one country?
No, maybe not.
If you could have Austin, which is obviously just a great event, everyone loves it. Vegas, and then maybe it opens another market in the USA, a New York street race, for example.
Very interesting. I'll leave you with this, my favourite clip from the weekend, which honestly, if I think about it, I'm going to start crying with laughter again, where the announcer goes, Sergio Checo Perez, and Perez walks onto the screen expecting the interview and then just sort of goes, looks at the cameras and goes, and then the other guy's just sort of standing there. There's no one making any noise. And he sort of goes, what am I supposed to do? If you haven't seen that clip, just search Sergio Checo Perez on Twitter or whatever. It's maybe my favourite Formula One clip of the year. You have to go and find it. And we will leave it there before I do start crying with laughter. Abbi, Richard, thank you so much for your insight. What a race. We've got one left. We're going to Abu Dhabi.
Fast, hasn't it? That's insane.
Crazy fast.
It's flown. It's absolutely flown.
Crazy fast season. Just very, very loosely, predictions for Abu Dhabi. Very loosely. Who's going to win it?
I mean, obviously it's going to be Max.
I think it might be Max Verstappen.
It's going to be Max. Do you know what? I am going to back Checo to finish P2.
Okay,
because I feel like we've had where he's finished P4, P3, given them both up. Surely he can't do it a third time. I'm going to go P2 for Max and P2 for Checo. And I really fancy Lewis. I fancy Lewis.
He's a good-looking guy. Richard?
I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to go Lando Norris.
Win.
I love it.
Because the Abu Dhabi circuit suits McLaren's strengths really well. A lot of medium speed corners. A lot of long straights, and I think Lando's driving particularly well.
Very interesting.
I mean, that's a really long shot, so don't blame me if you put a lot of money on and lose it. But I still think it's Max, but I think Lando will give him a serious run for his money.
Well, we'll leave it there. We'll, of course, be doing a full preview for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix later this week and covering all of the practicing, the qualifying and the race itself. But we'll see you very soon. Thank you very much for listening or watching, however you get your podcast. We are the On Track GP podcast and we'll see you soon. Thank you.